SWAC women's basketball landscape has just changed as Dawn Thornton has left University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff for Alabama A&M. Oh yeah, it's locked on HBCU. Play my music.
You are Locked On HBCU, your daily podcast covering HBCU sports. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, family? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On HBCU podcast, your number one daily one-stop shop for everything HBCU athletics, Monday through Friday, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And I, of course, am Darian Gray, a.k.a. the Mouth of the South, Texas Southern alum and former TSU Herald Sports editor and current contributing writer at USA Today's Saints Wire. Thank you for going on this journey with me. Make it Locked On HBCU, your first listen of the day, every day. And remember, just because the mic cuts off does not mean that the journey is over. It just means it's time to follow me on Twitter at South Exclusives. Starts with an S and ends with an S. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. And these days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. And that's why LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedon. College terms and conditions do apply. We wrap up today's episode with a look at a couple of moves that just went down in the transfer portal, both with men's basketball and then also football. But we kick it off with a two-part because this is an absolute game changer. Dawn Thornton, the now former UAPB women's basketball coach, is now employed by Alabama A&M, and I think this completely shifts the landscape of SWAC women's basketball. So I thought we start off with a nice little two-pack of that. Now, if you're familiar with programming, not just of my show, of just sports television in general, you understand how big of a story women's basketball has to be to overtake football. If you understand the programming and how the ordering goes, not on 9 out of the 10 shows that you'll watch in this style, right? You understand how big a women's basketball story has to be in order to take over for anything football, even if it's just a spring game. That's how big that this move is. This is how big that Dawn Thornton going from UAPB to Alabama A&M is. I was excited from Saturday. It was Saturday, 1 o'clock that they announced it in Central Time. And I was excited to get here today so that I could give this news and give my take and what I'm expecting from this to you. So I hope that you're excited and ready to go on this journey with me. I know that you are, and that's why you clicked on. You're an everydayer. Now, with that being said, Alabama A&M had a target date to hire a head coach of the Final Four weekend. That's what was told to me. That was the understanding. They wanted to get this done very soon, and Final Four weekend was around the time that it was expected. Final Four weekend was Saturday. They announced on Friday, I believe, that they will make the announcement on Saturday, right? So a little prelude, an announcement before the announcement. And on Saturday at 1 p.m., they ended up naming Dawn Thornton, who at the time was the UAPB head coach for women's basketball. They say, nah, we're going to bring on over here to the hill. Like I think that this, for one, I love moves like this and where you break down your opponent because you're going to have to go through them. You have to understand that. You're going to have to go through UAPB, and it's probably going to be easier now because you have Dawn Thornton. And that's one of the things that I look at, but we can throw that to the side because going the vindictive route, doing the I'm boosting while you're dropping, it's a great storyline. And it's one that I'll pick up anytime this happens again. But right now, I don't even need to because you take out where she came from and just school A, school B, school C. She has a history in the SWAC, and it doesn't matter what SWAC school that it is. She has a history of success in the SWAC that, to me, when I feel like it's easier to believe is going to transfer because you just built it. I've seen you have success in the SWAC at 2 different schools. So, yes, I believe that when you come here, your third school is not going to be an adjustment period. It's just about getting your talent in. And we'll get into that in segment 2, the talent aspect of this, because I think that is also something that we need to watch. Who is going to be her talent? Because it is up in the air out there in Huntsville. So, but when I'm saying this, when I'm looking at this, she comes in with a resume where with PV, before she was a head coach, when she was an associate head coach, she was a great developer of talent. She had multiple SWAC player of the years while she was at PV. She ended up becoming the head coach, and she was able to take them to another SWAC tournament and then also the NCAA tournament in her first season. So, like, this is one of the things where coach has a history of success. We can look at whatever you want to look. She has a history of success at PV. Then you go into the UAPB, and for me, this is one of the things that can be difficult, because when you have a person who's really good, like Tamika Reed, when you have a team that's really good, like Jackson State, and they've been really good for a long time, it can become difficult for some to appreciate, right? There we go. That's what I say. It can be difficult for some to appreciate other teams and other coaches. But I don't think that Dawn Thornton has fell victim to that. I think we're acknowledging how good she is. That year, 2 years ago, right? Not this one that just passed, but the year prior, she made it to the SWAC tournament without Zaay Green, her star player. And this was one of those things where if you were just getting a Rudy Poo coach, okay, whatever. Yeah, you took that person, or not an average head coach, but you're getting one of the probably top, I don't want to give a number, but one of the top coaches in the SWAC. Cool. Got you. When she got to UAPB, she led them to multiple SWAC tournaments because, she had the SWAC championship, the victory at PV, and then she also led them to a SWAC championship game at UAPB. So Prairie View won one. Pine Bluff, she made it to one. And that was the first time they had been since joining the conference. She's knocked off Tulane. Then the next year she backdoored and knocked off Arkansas. So you're talking about winning against top flight talent. We're talking about winning against teams that get noticed in the out of conference schedule. We've seen her develop talent there. Looking at Zaay Green, looking at people like Maya Pete. You're looking at her first year at UAPB. I can't remember. She had a big who was pretty good and was one of the best shot blockers in the conference, right? This is a coach who has won more games at UAPB than they had won in 10 years. And then she came back and upped that the following season. This is a coach who has a long history of success in the SWAC. And I can't stress that enough. When you're doing this in the conference, I know you know how to win here. We can say different conferences have different styles. We know how to recruit talent. We know how to win games here. And I kind of liken this move a little bit to Mo Williams because it was it was an in-conference move for each coach. But there's big differences. They both had the same excitement level. But for Mo Williams, people are excited about Mo Williams because of his NBA experience. He was a professional basketball player, and not that long ago, we all remember him. And then also, he was coming home. So going to Jackson State was like a homecoming for him. That's not the case for Dawn Thornton, right? Everything about the excitement around this hire is because of her coaching experience. That's what everybody is excited about. Does her husband now work for the Alabama A&M football team? Yes, but that's not the big story there, right? Like that's not the pool, so to speak. It's not the same as coming home. But one thing that both people really, I feel like, gives you, what they really gave you was A, a move inside the conference, and then B, excitement around the program. And it's not like Alabama A&M needed it. They had a really good head coach, but bringing in Dawn Thornton does bring some excitement because you didn't know what they were going to do next. Now you know they got a coach with a good pedigree, a good resume, and it brings excitement. And who knows how that can impact recruiting. Those are the biggest similarities. Mo Williams and Dawn Thornton both moved schools within the same conference, created excitement around a program, and then also seemingly, we believed, would open the door for some recruiting. So let's go ahead and get into that, starting off with what's going to happen with Amiah Simmons. I think that's the number one question I have, along with Zaay Green. 1A, 1B. Let's explore those as we continue with Locked On HBCU. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn, and LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right candidates for your job for free and fast, right? Who doesn't want to find the right person faster. I don't know anybody who doesn't want that. Who doesn't want to find the right person, not have to pay a bunch of money to try to search them out? I mean, it's honestly a high reward, low risk option. And if you're not using LinkedIn Jobs to find a void or find a person to fill your void, I don't know what you're doing. I really feel like you're letting down your business. And maybe that's why you have that void, because you haven't been going to LinkedIn. You haven't been finding the right people for your job. I don't know. Maybe I'm just throwing stuff out there, but I do know that LinkedIn has 8 billion people on there. There's so many people for you to choose from. I do know that 86% of small businesses who use LinkedIn are happy and find their job or find their future employee within the first 24 hours of posting their job. So now that's on you. You go ahead and go to linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That is linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions do apply. As we continue rolling on today's episode of Locked on HBCU, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day. For your second listen, make sure you're checking out Locked on Sports Today. It's the first of its kind live sports network on YouTube 24/7 all day, every day. Go to Locked on Sports Today and subscribe. Dawn Thornton going from UAPB to Alabama A&M is a big move. We broke down everything about that, the resume that comes over with Thornton, all of those things. And I feel like we don't need to look at the UAPB side right now. We don't need to look at it right now. We will, but we don't need to look at it right now. This is unquestionably a big move for Alabama A&M. But let's look at how she's going to fill out the team. Because I think that, yes, it's a great coach, but coaches need players. Coaches need players. Thornton going from UAPB to Alabama A&M is a big move, and I think it's going to send shockwaves through the SWAC women's basketball landscape. But how much? How impactful will it be? And I think that question will be answered by her ability to kind of meld together her UAPB team and then also last year's Alabama A&M team. See, now that she's came in to Huntsville, she has the ability to collect a great assortment of talent from her two schools. Question number one, can we get Amiah Simmons back into the fold? Question number two, and really it's a 1A, 1B, is what about Zaay Green? Is Green now loyal to UAPB as a university, even though her coach is left? I'll give an honorable mention that there's other players from each school. These are just the two stars, but there's other players from each school that are big parts of the future or what could be the future. Can they also get in the fold? Let's unpack those things. Right? Let's start off with Amiah Simmons. And really, I'll probably just go Alabama A&M and then UAPB. Probably go that way because Simmons is connected to everybody else, right? Like, it's hard to separate her. Amiah Simmons is the star of the Lady Bulldogs. She just is, right? Because all of the things that she's done for them last year, and I don't just mean, she had this moment and that moment. I mean, you go through the stats, she's leading in a bunch of different categories. Like, this is a player who scores well, facilitates, steals, rebounds, shoots. Like, she does so many things well that it's extremely difficult to replace somebody like her. And I wouldn't want to. And I don't think that Dawn Thornton should either, right? Because Amiah Simmons is an all-SWAC player. She's one of the stars of the team. My first thought would be get her back. And I would assume she's also one of the leaders of the team. So now she can talk to a Kaylah Turner. She can talk to a Darian Bergen. She can talk to an Alicia Wilson. She can speak to those players and say, hey, maybe we should come back. We have a good coach. Because from what I hear, Simmons just wanted, and I can't speak for everybody else, but from what I hear, Simmons just wants to keep her options open, and that's why she entered the transfer portal. And it's better to enter the portal early than it is to enter the portal late. That's how I'm looking at it, right? So maybe she can tell Simmons, or excuse me, she can tell Turner and Wilson and Bergen, come on home, we're good. But if I had to just narrow it down, because it might be difficult to get all four players back, right? Like, that might be something that's going to be difficult for you to do. But if I was Dawn Thornton, I'm focusing on Amiah Simmons and I'm focusing on Kaylah Turner. Those are the two players that I'm looking, I'm saying, hey, these are the guy or these are the girls that I need to bring back. Simmons is my star. That's the player who was the heart and soul of Alabama A&M. I don't want to lose her. But Kaylah Turner was a true freshman. And with her being a true freshman, that means she can be the future of my team. Even if I bring in people from UAPB, they're a little bit older. Meanwhile, you're looking at Kaylah Turner, a freshman, that can be my new star. Simmons is going into her senior year. Zaay Green has one more year of eligibility, right? And some of the other players that I'm going to look at, Kaylah Beck, Staar Jacobs, they're not people who are going to be long-term solutions or long-term fixtures for Alabama A&M. So I would love to get Kaylah Turner back in the fold. And then let's look at the UAPB people, right? Because UAPB is going to give me Zaay Green. And Zaay Green is a dog. Zaay Green is somebody who's done everything for her team, just like Amiah Simmons has done everything for her team. And I think that putting the two of them on the court together will be a great mix because Green's 6'2". She's not going to step on Simmons's minutes. She's not going to step on Turner's minutes. The question just becomes, how loyal is she to UAPB as a university? Because how loyal she is as a university will play, in my opinion, will play a big part. Because it's not the first time that a coach is left and a star player left too. Sometimes that star player follows. Sometimes that star player goes elsewhere. Doesn't have to go with the coach. But now it's time for her to prove how loyal is she to the university. But what about everybody else? Because Kaylah Beck left. Staar Jacobs left. And I thought that was strange. Why would Staar Jacobs leave before ever playing a game for UAPB? Now it makes me wonder, did they hear some things? Don't know, because I would assume that Zaay Green would have heard it too. Maybe she wanted to wait to make sure it was true. I don't know. Or maybe she's loyal to UAPB. Maybe she just said, I want to be at Pine Bluff. But Staar Jacobs, 6'2", real good player, right? Like I was looking for the duo of Zaay Green and Staar Jacobs at UAPB. Maybe I get the trio. Maybe I get the quartet. Like there's a lot of things that are going on here. There's a lot of moving pieces, and there's a lot of players that don't know where they're going to be. Staar Jacobs doesn't know where she's going to be. Kaylah Beck doesn't know where she's going to be. As of recording this, and this is Sunday evening-ish, same with Kaylah Turner. Same with Alicia Wilson, Darian Bergen, Amiah Simmons. Like all of these people are up in the air. I haven't seen any news about any of these people picking a destination. So who says that Amiah Simmons, Kaylah Turner, Darian Bergen, Alicia Wilson, Staar Jacobs, Kaylah Beck, and I know that Zaay Green hasn't entered the portal yet, but she has until May 1st to do it. Who says that all of those players or the majority of those players can't now follow Don Thornton to UAP or from UAPB to Alabama A&M, or if you're already on Alabama A&M, who says you can't just come home? These are one of the things that I feel like we really need to look at, because Don Thornton has the ability to create a great assortment of talent by taking her team from UAPB last year with the players who were at Alabama A&M last year, and this is a championship contender if you can put those things together. So as we push forward, let's look at the transfer portal, because you have two teams or two players. You have Isaac Parsons and D Davis. One men's basketball, one college football, both making moves. And I want to break down and give my take on both as we continue with Locked On HBCU. As we're wrapping up today's episode of Locked On HBCU, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day, making all the way to segment 3. And I thank you 2 times for that. Thank you. Thank you. Now, let's get into a little bit of transfer portal conversation as we wrap up today's episode, right? So, and I just want to hit this real quick because I really want to dive into the decision for D Davis, because that was something that really caught me. And every now and then for segment 3, I like to bring up something that just caught me. Like I like to be selfish sometimes. Selfish for segment 3, because Isaac Parsons has entered the transfer portal. That caught my eye. And I said, you know what? D Davis did as well. Let's go ahead and push these two together. Now I have something to talk about for a couple of minutes. So Isaac Parsons, he was a guard from Winston Salem State. He's now moving over to North Carolina Central. He was an all-CIAA player. And you're looking at a guy who he stepped into a bigger role in 2023/24. He stepped into a bigger role as the starting point guard. And I think he lived up to it. He ended up being the second leading assist leader in the conference. He was the leading assist leader. That sounds weird. He was the assist leader. Yeah, he was the assist leader for Winston Salem State, but he was second in the conference in that stat, right? And he ended up averaging almost 5 assists a game. And I think that facilitation will be important because you had North Carolina Central, who had the Cleveland Harris duo, and they could go create shots. You're not looking for Parsons to come in and create shots. You're looking for him to create shots for others, but he's more so creating offense as opposed to creating shots for himself, right? So that's what I'm looking at when it comes to that move. He's a second team all box to row HBCU All-American, second in the conference in assists, like I said. And in this season, you want to watch people when they're allowed more leeway, when they're given more responsibilities. Not everybody can operate with more responsibilities. Not everybody can come in and say, yeah, I was good with my 15 minutes. Now I'm at 25, because you get chances to make more plays, but you get chances to make more mistakes. And the more people see you, the more holes people see in you, right? Like that's just the truth. So I think that he stepped up to the plate, and I would like to see how they'll do next year, because they might have to do a little bit more facilitation. They might have to not just depend on Harris and Cleveland, who they could go get a bucket, right? Like you seen it. I think it was Cleveland in the HBCU All-Star game. He rattled off 12 points real fast. It's different. It's just it could be a different style of play. And I think that Parsons has the ability to take them into that style of play, right? And then the last guy is D. Davis. And this is, also, the Winston-Salem, North Carolina Central, North Carolina HBCU connection there. With D. Davis, he's entered the portal, and I think he did it the right way. When Mo sent this to me, I was like, he ain't been do that? Because you knew he wasn't going to start. Like, I knew he wasn't going to start as soon as Andrew Body committed. I probably would have entered the portal. But it's because D. Davis is a little bit smarter than I am in this situation. D. Davis, if you know you're not going to play, I used to be like, why are people waiting until after spring practice? If you don't have good film, go get better practice film. And I think that's what he did, right? I would assume that spring practice, he was like, okay, I'm going to put up some real good film. I know I'm not starting here, but maybe they'll let me take my practice footage and I can show this to some of the recruiters. And now I can get another spot, because his game film isn't that good. Like, that's just real. It's not that good, y'all. Which brings me to my next point, is what does the future hold? Mo and I had a discussion. Is it going to be D2? Changing positions, because he's failed there as far as a quarterback, but he's always shown athleticism. And I think that D2 is the way for him, because at his age, he's not changing. He's not like, there's not many people say, yeah, quarterback isn't for me. He's been playing quarterback his whole life. I think he's going to go the D2 route. It didn't work at Auburn, didn't work at Alabama State. Maybe it's Tuskegee, right? Like, maybe Tuskegee is the next one. Maybe you just want to stay in the state. So I think that's something that we'll watch. It'll be something I'm interested in. If he goes to a Tuskegee, we'll probably have this conversation at greater length. I want to make sure I hold off. I don't want to say too much and then he goes to another school. I think that D2 is the route he's going to go, because he wants to be a quarterback. And his athleticism has probably been his greatest tool since we've seen him in college. It just hasn't been enough for him. So we'll see what happens. I want to see him win, because I liked him coming into Alabama State. Just didn't like what he did once he got there. But I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day. Speaking of Alabama State, it's all a natural progression, right? Coaching, recruiting, transfer portal. Now let's go to the school, Alabama State. We'll look at their spring game on tomorrow. It'll be a mixture of Alabama State, Jackson State, Alabama A&M, probably over the next 3 days. We'll just decide what the future holds and which day gets which. And tomorrow we'll also look at the 3 HBCU players who entered the WNBA draft. So I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day. Until tomorrow, take care. Stay blessed. Hey.